Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to That D Plus Show. Class is in session for the only show from that nerdy site that lets you know what kind of quality to expect right from the name. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and each week we dive into a different Disney Plus offering and discuss its history, how it holds up today, and our general impressions. If you like the show, we would love it if you like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Joining me today, we have a three-person show. We have Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cameron?
Hey, what's going on, Trevor?
What is
And
going
Logan?
on? And Logan Wilkinson. How you doing, Logan?
I'm doing great. Always a pleasure to be on with both of y'all.
Always fun doing this show. And yeah, we're doing She-Hulk kind of the first half of the season this week. Obviously we did a few weeks ago back with the premiere. We did kind of the first episode. And in part because I realized that this series is going to end in the middle of our like Halloween month of stuff. We're not necessarily going to have a chance to revisit She-Hulk at the end of the series for a little bit. So I figured let's do a halfway through the season check-in here. Also, we didn't Cameron wasn't able to join us for the first one, so we get kind of his thoughts on She-Hulk so far, right? It was me and Logan for the first episode, right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm like, so sometimes I'm like, wait, who did I record with? It's all a blur. But yeah, so we're going to be talking all about She-Hulk episodes 1 through 5 today. That is A Normal Amount of Rage, Superhuman Law, The People versus Emil Blonsky, Is This Not Real Magic, and Mean Green and Straight Poured Into These Jeans. We picked it again in large part because we're not going to be able to do like the full season wrap up right when it wraps up, so might as well get a little bit more She-Hulk SEO out of here before we dive into that. But speaking of the Halloween kind of burst, I was putting together the schedule the other day, and so don't know what we're going to do here to close out September just yet, but starting in October, we will kind of continue the trend we've had the last couple of years of a very Halloween-themed October, which is going to start out with Hocus Pocus, will be our first episode of October, which will be October 7th, basically a week after it comes out. Then second is going to be Werewolf by Night, which will be the new MCU offering that comes out on October 7th, so we'll have a week to kind of digest that. And then we will kind of revisit the mainstays that we've been doing in our Halloween months. Halloween Town High to continue our Halloween Town journey of Disney Channel original movies.
That's still in the trilogy. Okay, we're still in
the trilogy.
Pretty,
the last
yeah,
one.
we're still in pretty okay
next
territory.
year
We still have Kimberly J. Brown.
Yeah.
Marnie, yeah.
Next year is when we get to Return to Halloween Town. And then we will close out.
No, that's Halloween Town University or whatever.
That's something weird.
I think it's just Return to Halloween Town.
Is it? Okay, it's still. We are going to roast the shit out of it.
Sounds good.
It's gonna be great.
And we will close out the month of October. Continuing on, last year we did the first three Treehouse of Horror episodes. Treehouse of Horror, Treehouse of Terror. Treehouse of Horror.
Treehouse of Horror.
They did not do alliteration from The Simpsons. So we will continue that this year with episode Treehouse of Horrors episode 4, 5, and 6 from seasons 5, 6, and 7 because they did not do a Treehouse of Horror the first year. So that's what October is going to look like, and we'll figure out what we're going to do the last couple weeks here in September. Sometime in the next couple weeks. But yes, back to She-Hulk. A lot of this going to be kind of carryover from what was discussed last time we did this, but I do have a few new names and a few new trivia things to add in here. So She-Hulk here is originally released August 18th through October 13th of 2022. The episodes thus far have had a runtime of between 30 and 37 minutes. In the MCU timeline of things, we had Moon Knight earlier this year from March through May. Then we had Doctor Strange, The Multiverse of Madness, Miss Marvel from June through July, Thor, Love and Thunder, July 8th, I Am Groot, August 10th, She-Hulk starting here in August through October. As I said earlier, Werewolf by Night has now been confirmed and will be coming out October 7th. When we talked about this a few weeks ago, it was like a Halloween TBD thing, which had pretty much all been but confirmed that it was going to be Werewolf by Night, but we did not have a date until the D23 presentation recently. On the movie side of things, we'll have Black Panther Wakanda Forever, November 11th. There is slated to be a Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special here in December. Then next year we have Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania in February, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 in May, and The Marvels in July. I believe all of that is still right. I did not double check that schedule stuff following D23, but I think it's there. Our director, we discussed in episode 1, was Kat Coiro. She's directed the first 4 episodes of the series, having previous TV directing experience on episodes of things like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Shameless, Modern Family, and Girls 5 Eva. She's also directed the film Marry Me. And then our new director for episode 5 here, Anu Valia, has done a lot of College Humor stuff in the past, including the series Hardly Working. On TV, she's directed episodes of The First Wives Club, Mixed Dish, Aquafina is Nora from Queens, At Home with Amy Sedaris, and Never Have I Ever. The showrunner is Jessica Gao, having previously written on projects like Robot Chicken, as well as the unreleased Star Wars Detours series and Rick and Morty. And it has only just dawned on me, with all of the WB stuff going on, that the Star Wars Detours is probably in the same camp as like the Batgirl and stuff, in that it was probably canceled and written off as part of the Disney acquisition, and we will just never see that. But we didn't talk about those kinds of things in the business industry at the time.
2012, right? Yeah.
So yeah, but still on our IMDb. Starring, we have Tatiana Maslany as Jennifer Walters, aka She-Hulk, having previously worked on projects like Orphan Black and Perry Mason. We have Mark Ruffalo in those first couple episodes as Bruce Banner / Smart Hulk, having been in projects like The Kids Are All Right, 13 Going on 30, Spotlight, and he's been the Hulk since the Avengers. We didn't talk about these ones last time around, but Tim Roth is reprising his role as Emil Blonsky. He's in projects like Reservoir Dogs, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, the 2001 Planet of the Apes, and he was Abomination way back in 2008 in The Incredible Hulk. Benedict Wong in here as Wong, having also been in projects like The Martian and having played Wong since the original Doctor Strange film. Ginger Gonzaga was mentioned last time as Nikki Ramos. She's worked on various projects back to 2007, including Togetherness, I'm Dying, Up Here, and Kidding. Jamila Jamil, we got a little bit of in that first episode and a lot more of in this most recent 5th episode, playing Titania. There was some confusion on how we pronounced her name in that first episode, but we've heard her name quite a bit more since. She's previously worked on projects like The Good Place, DuckTales, and most recently DC League of Super Pets. Threw him in here because he was a name I did recognize, and he has now been in a couple episodes. John Bass is Todd, one of the dates, who is the one who did return as like a client in this episode and then kind of got called into the stand. Who's very curious about She-Hulk's powers and almost has a superhero and fetish.
He totally does.
He's previously been in Molly's Game, and the thing I recognize him from, the Baywatch film a few years back with The Rock and Zac Efron.
He was also in The Newsroom, season 2, I believe. Or no, I believe it was season 3. He was the guy behind the TMZ-like push that they wanted to take in that season with that end.
There you go. So, I never watched past the first season of The Newsroom, so
the first season's definitely the best, but season 3 had its peaks with some like transitional roles and things happening. It's quite good. I am still quite
I don't dislike season 2 either, for what it's worth. I don't dislike The Newsroom in general.
The reason I never watched past season 1 is because it was Sorkin to up his smugginess. In the like, well, since we're doing this a few years after all of these events, we can say, here's how we should have covered these things, as opposed
Sure.
to like here's how people were actually trying to cover it in the moment thing. I was like, all right,
Sure.
Yeah, yeah.
bring
No,
the
100%.
pretension down a little bit, Sorkin.
Season 2 had a way of dealing with. Season 2 was very interesting in the way that they presented things, and the way that things kind of like blew up in people's faces at the end.
Yeah,
was extremely good because it was basically people didn't do good enough journalism and they paid the price for it. And it's very and that's very, very good.
Yeah.
Season 3 was basically all the storylines kind of came to a close. It was a really good send off for the show.
Okay.
As one of my favorite last episodes of a series.
Cool. Renee Elise Goldsberry here, seen a little bit in previous episodes, but she gets really a spot to shine here as Mallory Book in this most recent episode, best known as Angelica Schuyler in Hamilton.
Angelica.
Indeed.
We gotta do another Hamilton podcast, guys. It's been too long.
We did like 2 months worth of it at the time. Probably don't need to circle back to it. We have this was just a fun one I pulled in here just because I was like, hey, I recognize that guy. After I realized that I recognized him, Mark Lynn Baker is playing Morris Walters, a.k.a. Jennifer's dad, best known to audiences from Perfect Strangers in the 80s and 90s. Yeah. And then he was also in Noises Off, and more recently, he was in Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, as well as Succession. And then just because she took the internet by storm last week, I had to include Patty Guggenheim as Madison, with a Y, but not where you think.
Not where you think.
She's done a lot of miscellaneous roles, including episodes of Two Broke Girls, Tosh.0, Modern Family, Florida Girls, and Curb Your Enthusiasm. A little bit of the trivia here. Again, kind of not replicating what we talked about last time, but episode 1, during the bar scene, Bruce mentions that he and Jen can't get drunk because they're enhanced metabolism. This is exactly what Steve Rogers said to Peggy Carter back in the first Captain America, further establishing that the Hulk was created by Banner experimenting with the super soldier serum. So it's a fun little through line of the powers of that serum. In a rare TV nod to reality, the jury box in that first episode is shown to contain 14 jurors, 12 members, and 2 alternates, as often happens IRL. I just threw that one in there because the one time I've had to serve on a jury, I was one of the alternates and basically got dismissed when it went into deliberation. I was like, so you just made me waste 2 days of my life. Thanks. Right during midterms in college. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Phoenix court system. Episode 2. We have a news website that Jennifer visits, has 2 fun little headlines in there as little cameos / Easter eggs. Number 1 being why there is a giant statue of a man sticking out of the ocean, referring to the events of Eternals, where the celestial being Tiamat is just kind of sitting out there basically as a marble statue in the ocean now. And then also there is a headline for man fights with metal claws in bar brawl, referring to potentially Wolverine, of course. And also in that episode, Jennifer's phone lock screen is a picture of Captain America's ass, continuing the running gag from the first episode of her obsession with Captain America, and shout out to her having America's ass as her phone. We get a rare fourth wall break from another character when Bruce mentions that he was literally a different person the last time he fought Emil Blonsky. Of course, that fight occurring in The Incredible Hulk back when Banner was played by Edward Norton, prior to Mark Ruffalo taking over the role in The Avengers. In episode 3, Wong's LinkedIn profile indicates that before he worked as the librarian of Camertage, he was a Target associate at a Target in Camertage. So that was a fun little thing that they threw in there. Jennifer Walters is confronted with the rumor that she got her powers from a mob murder attempt on her. I think we mentioned this a little bit in the first episode, but in the original comic book series, this was indirectly how Walters gets her Hulk condition. Namely, mob hitmen wounded her in an attack, and her cousin Bruce was forced to give her a blood transfusion to keep her alive, which produced a milder version of his Hulk condition in her. So it was a fun little nod to her origins there. And the group that she fights at the end, the Wrecking Crew, that is wielding Asgardian construction tech, in the films or in the MCU here, is coming from construction equipment from New Asgard. But in the comics, the Wrecking Crew is still using Asgardian equipment, but it was made on Earth and enchanted by Loki. So fun little nod to even that weird little group's origins. Episode 4, Reese Coiro, who plays Donnie Blaze, is married to the episode's director, Kat. According to Kat Coiro, when she brought Patty Guggenheim up during a meeting with Marvel executives, they weren't familiar with her. However, Coiro recalled that when Guggenheim was auditioning, the executives and showrunners loved her performance and were crying with laughter. And the character Madison became so popular among fans in that first week that a cult following has started immediately, with fans doing cosplays of her, as well as a ton of little memes. And the mid-credit scene with Madison and Wong was not scripted. Kat Coiro decided to let the cameras roll and just let Patty Guggenheim and Benedict Wong improvise their dialogue for the mid-credits on that one. And here in episode 5, Titania, does have a verified Twitter account, which just goes to show that Twitter will appease anything with the corporate gods, as opposed to the number of people out there that should have verified accounts but do not. So she can be an influencer in our world as well as the MCU's. And then the Pug's shoe collection, in the post-credits, the drawing of Pug's shoe collection has a ton of Easter eggy themed sneakers from characters including Doctor Strange, Falcon, Hulk, Wolverine, Cable, Captain America, Ghost Rider, Deadpool, Vision, Silver Surfer, Electro, Captain Marvel, Cyclops, Black Panther, Moon Knight, and others. The ones I did not include were the ones that I was like, those are so obscure, I don't know who those people are. So,
well, I like how superheroes have become so ubiquitous. Nike's named shoes lines after.
Yep. Yeah. The Iron Man 3, obviously.
I'm trying to get the Iron Man 3. Oh, also, let's keep going.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's all I got for the trivia. So let's dive in. Cam, let's start with you since you were not around for the first episode. What have you been thinking of She-Hulk so far? She-Hulk Attorney at Law.
So I saw the first episode after you guys were able to record it. And then I didn't watch any more until today. I was home today this afternoon and I watched all of them. I was able to because they're so short and it's great. But I have to just say I'm absolutely in love with the show.
Mm-hmm.
The show is absolutely incredible. I think the problem people are having with this show is they're not familiar or they don't understand procedural shows. They don't understand, like, a lot of the complaints I've been seeing from a lot of people is like, this is very much a show about the mundane nature, or rather the mundane parts of what would be a superhero filled world. The fact that you have super powered peoples coming out of the woodwork, the fact that you have like New Asgard on Earth, all these sort of things, like, yeah, things have to change. And so superhero law becomes a thing. And the idea that, like, first off, I love the She-Hulk comic from the 90s and like late 90s, early 2000s, where it was like the case of the month for She-Hulk, or like she'd have like a set like number of issues that she was doing relating to some like some case. And it was always really fantastic because it took a very much this, sometimes breaking the fourth wall, sometimes not, but a lot of times just like this, like, yeah, this is part of the superhero world that we don't ever really get into. It's one of my favorite things about Spider-Man Homecoming is the Vulture is born from the government, like the federal government, like screwing with the private contractor who got a contract from the city to do cleanup and bankrupts them. And like that, like that's the whole, like, I love the aspect of that. It's like, no, this is a blue collar guy and a blue collar crew, but this is kind of the fallout of the magnificence and the opulence and the incredibleness of the superhero universe and world that you live in when you're in that genre of, you know, in literature, or in this case, of film. And this is the mundane aspects of it. These are Like it's fat. I love this part of it. I love the legal thing with Wong filing a cease and desist against a Comitage dropout. I love there's so many things that I absolutely love about it, that it's like, yeah, people have also grown accustomed to the superhero world. This isn't like a, oh my goodness, these are superheroes. It's like, yes, I know you're a superpowered person, but there are laws, sir. And
yeah, did you just admit to breaking somebody out of prison?
Somebody out of prison?
I have to go.
Sir,
Sir,
you know that you just admitted under oath. Yeah, that entire moment, and he goes, I have to go, and just does that. Bails, incredible, and then comes back. Like, it's great. There's so much about what they're doing about this is just so on the nose. It reminds me of things like not Law and Order so much, but Boston Legal, Ally McBeal.
Yeah.
Like it has heavy Boston Legal vibes, and I freaking love it.
There was,
like, if James Spader showed up, I know he was Ultron already, so he won't be showing up. But if James Spader showed up as a cameo with some other character, that'd be amazing.
There was I don't remember if it was episode 1 or 2, but at one point when Jennifer and Nikki are at a bar, Ally McBeal is playing like on the TV at the bar, which I'm like, that's not how that would work. Like that would 1000% be playing some sports channel. But
no,
sure.
because they're at a legal bar.
Yeah,
it's literally a bar for legal people.
Yeah,
it's that, like,
sure.
I'm
sure that's exactly
what
lawyers want to be doing while they're blowing off steam at the bar, is watching more law stuff. But yes, it was just a fun little, like, obvious, like, giving an homage to another influence of the show.
Yeah, so I love this show because of the shows it reminds me that I watched growing up: Boston Legal, Ally McBeal, Law and Order. I thought I thought it was awesome. Like, she gets fired in episode 2. And it's now the struggle, and like then you have to just deal with,
and then it's like She-Hulk looking for work or whatever, or attorney for hire.
Yeah, attorney for hire. When she does, when she's at her family dinner, and Ched is like, I made manager at the Best Buy. Like, this is like, it's all coming up, Ched. This entire thing, and then at the very end, he's like, I could have done that, when she's helping her dad around the house. It's just awesome. It's also like her mom, clearly she and her mom have issues, and then like, her dad just like does the getaway thing. Like, okay, so how are things really going for? And like, just getting it. And just, man, there's so much about it. And I love that they're playing with it. I love that this last episode really was about her confronting, because the denial that she's, being She-Hulk, and like the denial of like who she is. This is who she is now. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the season, because we got to that point in the mid-season. So I'm really excited to see how we go, like we do things moving forward. I've just been absolutely blown away by just the quality of the show, and like how fun it is. Like, they know this is a dopey, goofy concept, and they're just owning it, and it's great.
Mm-hmm. Logan, how about you? Any new thoughts since we last talked about it?
Yeah, I was taking notes like Cameron's writing too, so I didn't forget any stuff. But yeah, like I mean, like, I agree with so much what he said, right? Like, I think, I put a little bit of it in Slack too after watching the episode today, but like, I think it can't be understated enough how stupid, dumb, fun She-Hulk is, right? Like, one of the most important things for me is, I think the MCU as a series, entity, franchise, whatever you want to call it, takes itself so exhaustingly self-serious so often, and we very rarely get things that are just fun, that I think when those things come around, they stand out that much more. I think that honestly is why so many people love Thor Ragnarok. It is just this bolt of like, oh my God, this is something different. And it's like not just like gray and so serious. It's just fun. And the same thing, obviously, with like the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, right? And I think so much what me and you loved in particular, Trevor, about Miss Marvel was how like earnest and like unpretentious and like real that show was. And Miss Marvel is so silly and so goofy and so dumb, and it's just so much fun, right? Like I think it is so clearly a procedural show in the vein, yeah, of Boston Legal's a great shout out. Ally McBeal is very clearly a huge inspiration. Stuff like LA Law clearly inspired this. Like, it is just
even a little bit of Night Court.
Yeah, even a little bit of Night Court, right? Like, it is 100% those kind of style of sitcoms, and that is so refreshing. I mean, I guess when you think about it, it is just a sitcom, right? In the vein where, like, you know, Miss Marvel and, you know, Falcon the Winter Soldier and Loki and all these other shows are like these serialized dramas that are really tackling big issues. And Miss Marvel's like, you know, fucking goofing off and doing dumb shit for 30 minutes. And it's a blast. It is so refreshing.
You said
so
you
much
keep
fun.
saying Miss Marvel, but I think you mean She-Hulk, right?
Oh, She-Hulk. Thank you.
It's like you've gotten the streams mixed a bit.
Yeah, but like, and She-Hulk, it's just so much fun, right? It's so refreshing. Especially as someone like me who I think is at the very least like slightly exhausted by the MCU like films at the moment. I'm so happy to see the TV side of things just doing so well with She-Hulk and Miss Marvel, now this last two in particular. I think really stand out as something different and unique within this giant universe of films and TV shows now. And so I really love it. I think one element for me that is like super important that can't be stepped on is how colorful and bright this show is. Again, in a, you know, series of films and movies that is literally intergalactic, multi-universal, in fact, it is surprisingly absent of a lot of colors. The MCU is beginning to fall under the Call of Duty effect of a lot of like muted colors and everything. And She-Hulk takes, you know, much glory in the LA Law inspired, you know, pastels and bright neon colors and oranges and blues and greens and vibrant shades of things that makes it fun to look at as well. I think it's super self-aware. I think it's so self-aware and so funny and like so millennial, like cringe humor that's great. And yeah, I think I watched the first episode, and we talked a lot about that on that, you know, episode of that D Plus show, Trevor, where I was like, I don't know what the show at large is going to be. This is such a weird pilot episode. I like it, but I'm not sure where we're going to go. And I'm not even sure if this is what I thought we were going to go, but it's better than I think I hoped for. Yeah, it's so much fun. It's silly. It's goofy. And I can't stress enough how refreshing it is for the MCU just to like let itself go, right, and have fun with something. And I think this episode that just aired most recently is a prime example of that. It is 30 minutes long, and it is just sort of like a series of things happening. There's no overarching plot, really. It is just like randomness happening. Case of the week, Sneaker Guy comes in. That's its own mini. Like, it's just so much fun randomness to it. You know, and it feels almost like it would fit better in like an episode of The Office or Parks and Rec than like an MCU series, and that is absolutely a compliment to like this episode in this show.
I'm very curious if, in the same way that like when I was at Disney a couple months ago, I bought a shirt that was like a Miss Marvel shirt from AvengerCon. I'll be very curious if Disneyland starts selling Avengers shirts.
Yeah.
Oh my
The knockoff.
gosh, yes. Oh, you don't want Avengers? I got Avengers.
Yeah.
I actually saw right before we started recording that Avengers has a verified Twitter as well.
Nice.
That's great.
Yeah. So tying together, I think kind of what both of you guys are touching on. I think one of the things I really enjoy about the show is contrasting against all of the movies, and so many of the series so far have been like a serialized, like we're telling a big story just over 6 episodes or something like that, have always been like very heightened, high stakes, like end of the world threat or something like that. And one of the reasons that this show is fun is the mundanity aspect that Cameron touched on, of like, this is day in the life stuff for superheroes, which we haven't gotten a ton of. We get like little tidbits of it through, you know, a couple of like scenes in Spider-Man stuff over the time, and then a little bit in Miss Marvel. But like so much of it is just like the fact that this is really like, we're 5 episodes in, and there isn't really like an overarching plot that we're
No.
like building to. It was like, okay, the first episode is kind of the origin story. Second episode is her becoming the She-Hulk lawyer. Third episode is the defense of Emil Blonsky. Fourth episode, or I guess second episode. Was second episode Emil? No, I've forgotten. Like
episode 3 was Emil.
Okay. And one of them was the Megan Thee Stallion like trickster elf character episode is what I think both of those are happening in episode 3. And then yeah, last episode, the fun little like Donnie Blaze Wong Madison like story, and then here we got Titania coming back, having like doing the branding of She-Hulk and stuff. And so yeah, every episode has just been, it's like weird little standalone story. There are little things that like carry over from episode to episode, but and like this episode, for example, has the tease of Daredevil at the end with the new Daredevil costume that we've seen in trailers and stuff. So kind of setting up, another superpowered lawyer in the story to come. But yeah, it's like maybe in the loosest of senses, there is potential for a peppered in plot of the Wrecking Crew. Clearly somebody was like behind them because they're trying to report back and they're trying to get Jennifer's blood. So that's like presumably the like overarching plot of the season, but like it's been such a nothingness, and
Right.
it has just been like, let's just tell a funny story each week. Which is like good and bad. I as somebody who like stays up, watches them before going to bed and stuff, I have kind of found myself waking up the morning being like, did I like it? Like I enjoy it. I laugh in the moment, but like there's nothing huge that like makes it stick in my mind the next morning that I'm thinking like, oh, this is what I want to like look around and see what people are talking about or anything like that. Like, I mean, I'll give the example of like Madison last week didn't do a ton for me. Like I got that her character was that character, and I was like, okay, this humor, much like the goats in Thor: Love and Thunder, isn't really doing it for me. And then like looking online and seeing how the internet reacted to her, I was like, oh, okay, that hit a whole bunch of people in a very different way than it hit me.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's also because I have no connection to Sopranos, so I didn't care that she kept spoiling it for Wong. But yeah, I mean, like, if anything, I liked more of the mundanity of seeing Wong's, day to day, when he's not out trying to be like defender of the universe, defender, sorcerer supreme, and all that stuff. Versus like Madison. But it's still like a fun episode, and I, the whole like montage of Jennifer kind of setting up the She-Hulk Tinder profile or matcher or whatever it's called in universe, and I appreciated that like that came around to be the evidence of, yes, she has adopted the She-Hulk thing, even if she doesn't like it in public or whatever, she's still using it. So I've enjoyed the show, and I do very much like the different flavor of MCU playing and just having fun, just like I liked it with Hawkeye as well.
Shout out to Dave Otunga, by the way, who's one of the guys that she won a date with.
Yep, Dave
WWE
Otunga.
Superstar and commentator Dave Otunga.
Indeed. Yep. So yeah, it's like there's a fun levity to the show. And maybe there's an element of me that is like so conditioned to expecting everything to tie together or expecting there to be like a bigger overarching plot that I don't know how to process a just more like, or a less serialized MCU story. So it's definitely fun, but I definitely find like each episode ending and being like, that was it. I want more. But at the same time, like, yeah, but I mean, that did tell a start to finish story. I'm just not used to like a standalone 30-minute story in the MCU, I guess. I'm so used to like them layering in and being like, oh, here's the cliffhanger that we're going to set up for the next thing.
Right.
If anything, like the weirdest aspect was the fact that this last episode did not have a mid-credits scene. Like I went back, like when the like black on white or white on black credits started rolling, I was like, did I miss the mid-credit scene? And like rewound it. I was like, no, just wasn't. They just didn't have one this week. That's weird. But then at the same point, I was like, oh, I mean, they did like end on the like Daredevil tease. So if anything, I was like, I guess they could have taken like that last 15-second scene or something and put that in as the mid-credit scene.
Right.
But maybe they have metrics that are like, hey, no, let's go ahead and like tease that for next week's episode or something like that in the actual episode proper. But yeah, overall, like I'm still having a good time with it, still enjoying it. It's just, it is such a different pacing that I have to get used to each week in the MCU. So
I love it. I think, for me, that difference nature, I mean, like it is almost like watching a regular TV show as opposed to an MCU thing. And like, I think that's so refreshing. I think that's so nice, for lack of a better word, right? Like one of the things you talked about, Trevor, is the fact that it is so low stakes, right? There isn't any galactic threat or anything like that, a world-ending monster to kind of fight. And it's just like, that makes it so much fun, right? Like, even, a show that I still think is my favorite, MCU show in Miss Marvel, what I think is the weakest element of that story is when it tried to get to like this like world ending threat, and they kind of brought that in the last like episode or two. I didn't need that, right? And it did feel a little just like forced, and like, whether or not there will be an eventual world ending threat or monster at the end of this series, I don't know yet, but like, I certainly don't think it needs it, right? And like, I think, yeah, like if this is just a Teen Titans Go-esque element of like the MC universe, I'm totally content with that. I don't need it to ever be taken too seriously. I want it to just be lighthearted and chill, because I think that is so much fun, right? And I think the cast of characters around them, which we talked a lot about in that first episode, of being so important, once Bruce kind of stepped away and shouldn't have that kind of support to lean on, has absolutely stepped into the void, right? And I think everyone that we've seen so far has just been allowed to have fun and be really silly and goofy. And, one of my favorite elements of this most recent episode was, the little, like, we need to find Jin, like, a better costume and better suit outfit quest, right? And, like, them being caught on video camera, like, dancing, and him being like, I can still see you. It was, like, a really funny bit. Them at the boba shop, right? And getting basically, like, scammed into buying a bunch of Avengers gear in order to go meet the dude is, like, a great moment. And, right, like, we sell boba here. It's just, like, so many small, like, one beat, one note things. And, like, yeah, like, maybe it doesn't leave like the lasting impact of a super serious MCU show kind of thing, but also the counter to that is that like I also just look forward to each episode in a way where like for that I'm like, all right, I have to like sit down and like get prepared for like this like really like serious meaty like 40 plus minute long thing about like trauma, like in WandaVision or something like that, right? And it's just like, now, like I can just go in and boom, it's an episode of LA Law or it's an episode of Ally McBeal. And like, yeah, like I think that makes it so nice just flip on at the end of a like whatever day it comes out on, Wednesday, Thursday kind of thing. And yeah, like I think that's super nice. And so again, the most important thing to me is that like if the MCU just takes itself less seriously, I'm always going to be on board with that because it takes itself too seriously, especially in the last few years. And so, like, yeah, like let's just be chill. Let's have fun. It is completely silly stories as it should be. And like one of the best compliments I think I can give to She-Hulk is that like it is almost easy to forget that it is about like superhero stuff. So, like how mundane and like everyday a lot of the problems are, makes it feel much more universal than a lot of the MCU stories that are being told. And so you're able to connect with Jennifer, I feel like, so much faster than a lot of the other Marvel heroes out there, right? Like I think that like Miss Marvel did it in a similar vein, and then I think that like probably only Steve Rogers for like the regular Avengers did, which is like, yeah, like he's just a dude who like got this, but like he's still very much like the same earnest dude. And otherwise it's like well, I can't really relate to, a like god of thunder's woes. They're a bit different from mine. Or like, oh man, it is tough to be a rich multi-billionaire who like owns half of California and Tony Stark. And it's like, no, like I don't understand that. But like, yeah, like dating profiles and like getting fired from your job and like the trials and tribulations of just being like, a young-ish adult is like, yeah, like that's all very much stuff that we've all been through. And so I think its relatability, despite its, superheroic nature, is to the benefit of She-Hulk as well.
Yeah. Cam, any favorite moments or scenes that you want to give a shout out to, give some love to?
God, there's so many. The entire episode with Donnie Blaze is just such a standout to me because it's just like, it's just absolute ridiculously on top of everything. But it's also the episode where she goes on the dates with all of the guys, the She-Hulk. It's really, really, really fucking good. Like, I think it's probably the perfect episode for the show. In my opinion, it has the
That's interesting.
perfect cameo. It takes the cameo of a character we know, but then it does something that I think cameos in shows should do, which is show a different aspect of their life. The fact that this is also showing that Wong is super into like catching up on shows he missed, like The Sopranos.
This Is Us was the other one.
This Is Us was another one. Yeah, and it's like
sad.
He's going after these like really great, amazing television shows. It's like, oh yeah, because he was doing library and stuff in Comertage.
Yeah, he wasn't blipped. He was here. So
he was here. Yeah. So like he's had stuff, like he's like doing this stuff. It's like, yeah, catching up on it. And then the fact that like, because of Donnie Blaze, he now has like a new BFF who like, yeah, it's like, oh, okay, Wong's going to be like annoyed by her, but no, like she brings like, yeah, let's go. All right, let's go. And then when they're afterwards, she goes, okay, like, what drinks do you like? Do you like this? Do you like that? You don't know what that is? I don't know what that is either. It's just this. And it's like, it's such a wonderful aspect of the two of them, of Wong. One, finding a friend who will indulge him in these things and like these different aspects of his personality in ways that like Madison's not going to make fun of him for not knowing these things. Madison's like, she might spoil things sometimes, but she's not going to, like, Doctor Strange would have given Wong shit for not knowing things.
Yeah.
Like, he just would. And like, it's not because they're not friends, but that's their friendship. Seeing a different side of Wong and his friendships is great, and it's awesome. On top of that,
also as Jen points out, hey, yeah, we brought Wong back because everybody loves Wong, right? Wong's great.
Yeah,
he's like Twitter armor. That's probably my favorite, like, of the fourth wall breaks of her just being like, yeah, we know the internet loves Wong, so like, yeah, we're going to own that and use him in the show,
right? Yeah,
yeah. Well, the fact, like, that's the thing that I loved about it though, is because like the Wong cameo in Emil Blonsky's episode was pretty straightforward, what you would kind of expect out of it. And then they did something completely different when the cameo was focused on Wong and not Emil Blonsky. And kind of that transition. And I loved when, like, and also I loved that episode because She-Hulk's dating and she finds a guy and he's like, they're super into each other. Do you want to split a plate of fries? Yeah, but let's get them to go. And it's like, hell yeah, it's on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like this, like, it's sexy, it's hot, and that's awesome. And then like,
but then he's only into She-Hulk. He does not want anything She-Hulk to do with Jennifer Walters.
She's like, it's very obvious. She's like, Jen Walters is not his type, but She-Hulk is. And it's like, he's like, I don't like, he's like, you can tell like he feels bad about it, but also at the same time, he wanted to go out with this strong, powerful, like physically dominant woman. And that's not who she is all the time. And I don't like, I think their date was a bit more physically charged, so maybe that wouldn't have come up. Mm-hmm. But I could like see how the guy would be like, I kind of felt like, she like
it's was a bait and switch. Yeah.
It's kind of a bait and switch. Like, that's not fair. And I think the reason why they don't bring up that fact, like, they don't bring up him as being a jerk is because, yeah, he wanted to go on a date and spent the night with She-Hulk, and he did, and they've had a connection on that level, but like he doesn't like get that with Jen, and that makes sense because Jen and She-Hulk, when she's She-Hulk, there are different aspects of her personality that are focused on and that she chooses to dig into. And like, well, also that moment when she turns into She-Hulk when she's getting attacked by the Wrecking Crew, it's awesome. Gosh, no, that entire episode though, especially with oh my gosh, the little goblin demons.
Mm-hmm.
First off, I loved them; they were amazing. And then second off, also like just Madison in general is just fantastic. Just like just so great. Especially when Wong, she's like tells Wong like get her, and he goes okay, and he gets her, and she goes I regret it. Like he goes I tried to tell you.
I don't know. I don't remember which part you're talking about there. Sorry.
Oh, when she tells Wong to get her to testify for him.
Oh, got it. Logan,
it's like yeah.
Any favorite moments from you?
I think we've already run through a lot of pretty good ones. I mean, Cameron ran through a lot of the greatest hits. It just allows him to learn. But I mean, I like again, even in this episode, like I think do we decide on like do we decide on Titania?
Titania, yeah.
Titania. Everything involved with her She-Hulk. Like that's the thing. Like this episode is like She-Hulk is so cheesy, but you just lean into like everything involved with the She-Hulk like market and brand thing and all the stuff is like so cringy and cheesy, but it works. It's so self-aware and it's like knowingly doing it, and it is so great. And you know the bit where like she and her like friend like crash her like event, and then like Titania's like, oh, like excuse me little boy, and like just like pushes her aside to go get the photo with the fan, and just increasingly gets more and more like blocking the fan out of the selfie is like a really funny like physical gag. I like the image of like whenever they leave the courtroom at the end of the episode, Titania's like on the side of the thing, just like taking selfies and just like doing her whole act on the side, just like in the background of the shot. Like I love so many funny little like sight gags that are happening throughout the episode. And I think She-Hulk, despite how like silly and goofy it can be, I think in some ways masks how clever and smart its writing is. Because it's very funny and it's very knowingly funny when it like about what it wants to poke fun at and what it wants to kind of like satire and skewer. And I think like Jen is just a great character and she's got a great cast around her. And you know, I like the fact that this episode doesn't end with like a fight or anything silly like that. It's just like, yeah, like they win the case and that's it. And then they go on and she has drinks with Angelica Schuyler, or you know, how jealous are we all? And like it's just a great moment, right? And like even that, like her like, you know, word vomiting out at the end of the episode about like we're friends now kind of thing is like relatable, right? And like honest for someone that you think is like super cool and just like actually hanging out with you. And yeah, like I don't know, I think it is all of the little small moments that make She-Hulk really fun. There's nothing massive that I'm like, oh, this is She-Hulk. It's like, no, like I mean, Cameron had probably the best end episode. So just like, it's all the mundane day-to-day life moments that make up a life, but not the parts that you talk to people about, that make She-Hulk so much fun, and that make it so different and that make it so special. And yeah, like it's all those tiny little moments that are my favorite parts. Again, like the Boba Tea exchange and like, you know, the camera and them dancing exchange, like her being part of the Avengers. Well, not yet, but technically, but yeah, she will be. Just not the paperwork's still drying on it kind of thing. Like, yeah, like it's all those little beats and moments that pay off for me.
Yeah. One that I want to give a shout out to that we haven't touched on is we saw him a little bit in that first episode, but like the douchey lawyer who's so full of himself and such a misogynistic douche that everybody's just like, we know who he is and put up with him, but like the fact that like he's delusional enough to think that he had Megan Thee Stallion, but it was really that trickster elf lady. I thought that was like just a fun thing, and they use him in such a a fun way to juxtapose against Jennifer and She-Hulk,
Right.
and kind of that side. Like, he is nowhere near the otherworldly villains that she's fighting or anything like that, but he is indicative of that kind of mentality and stuff.
Mhm.
And so, the fact that she will even go help him and support him is a testament to her character in terms of the that court case and stuff. But also, I think just a lot of that shape-shifting character had a lot of fun in terms of going and being the judge, or going and being Pug, and saying I hate women, or whatever he says in that.
Oh no, I love to harass women.
Yeah.
And he comes out, he goes, "You guys
cool.
know me.
Yeah.
Not cool. You guys know me. Come on."
Yeah.
Just that. Also, shout out to possibly one of the most underrated characters in this show, Pug. Pug is amazing.
Yeah.
He's
Pug's
so great. He
Yeah.
is so great. Him, Nikki, the supporting cast in this show is
That's what
so
I'm saying. It's just fantastic.
like the level of subtle, the way that they do not have heavy focus on them. They're just other supporting cast members, is fantastic, and I love it. And also just that entire end at when he goes, when Pug is asking Jen about the douchebag, you know him very well. He talked about his romantic exploits all the time. Do you think he thought he pulled Megan Thee Stallion?
Yeah.
Yes. And it's so freaking good. Also, Megan Thee Stallion doing her own cameo in that show. Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really talked about that. That's obviously one of the most divisive, controversial lightning rod moments of the show, I guess. But the Meg Thee Stallion thing is, of course, it's dumb, but that's the point. It's completely ridiculous and absurd.
Yeah.
And it's 30
straight out of
seconds long, and it's funny. And people are sharing it this is not the first time Avengers or MCU stuff have done dance scenes and everything. It's that's not even the point. The whole point is that it's ridiculous and absurd and silly. It's an episode of Ally McBeal or Boston Legal or LA Law. This is how they always have these dumb, silly stingers, and it's great. It's super funny and silly.
Let me tell you about the phenomena that was the dancing baby.
The
dancing 3D baby of Ally McBeal. Okay?
It blew apart the world in 2000, yeah.
It was everywhere. And it was it was an insanity. Being cognizant in the year 2000, for one, Y2K, and two, the dancing baby on Ally McBeal, the creepy as hell CGI baby on Ally McBeal was that is the definition of what the year 2000 is. Okay, that's it. Y2K, dancing baby on Ally McBeal.
Yeah. That was as Logan was talking about it, I was immediately thinking dancing baby, Ally McBeal, and then Cameron beat me to the punch. I watched it. I because I'm not a music person, I've heard the name Megan Thee Stallion, but I wouldn't be able to tell you her songs or anything like that. I wouldn't have been able to pick her out of a. Oh, she was WAP. Okay,
she was WAP.
Okay,
she was the big lead on WAP.
Yeah. But I wouldn't have been able to pick her out of a crowd or anything like that. But I still appreciate that Jennifer can pick her out of a crowd. She-Hulk can pick her out of a crowd and is incredibly excited to get a chance to be her lawyer and just twerk with her and have fun. And it's cool. That's a fun thing. I have no qualms with that. I was also I think news of the cameo had broken. I'd seen I'd caught wind of it a couple days before, so I knew it was coming. As soon as they start mentioning her, I'm well, she's obviously going to be somewhere in this episode. So when she pops up in the courtroom, I was there she is, cool. And I think you probably also saw her in the YouTube clip that was shown earlier or whatever. But yeah, that. I mean, I have just gotten to the point where I don't give the chauvinist pieces of shit and their opinions on Twitter that are just purely sexist and drawing from sexism towards Miss Marvel, towards Captain Marvel, towards She-Hulk here. I don't give them the time of day. And if I see the controversy, the quote unquote controversy, I'm just I'm scrolling through it. I'm not going to be out there. I'm not going to quote tweet to give whoever's being the asshole
More
like
oxygen.
engagement or anything like that. It's just like whatever. The worst I will do is I'll see in like in my phone I'll get like recommended stories or something like that, and there will be some sites out there being like, this is the worst scene in MCU history or whatever, and I'm just like, click the 3 dots, don't recommend anything from this site, because if a site is going to try and like traffic in like hate clicks like that, I'm like, I don't want to see anything from them. So fix your algorithm, Google. I don't care. Because like it is a show inherently trying to be funny, and succeeding. And I just, like in that first episode, in the like, some of the most prescient things are the little like offhanded things that Jen says, of like in this most recent episode, I think of like, I just want to be able to like, walk at night without, fearing for my life or whatever. Or like she says, I'm able to do that now as She-Hulk, and her friend says like every woman's dream kind of thing. It's like, yep,
right. Yeah.
there is too much bite to that. And it's always the like, those stories of, women have just conditioned themselves to hold their keys in their hand like Wolverine or something like that, because that's a thing they have to deal with that I, as a straight cis white male, do not have to deal with, have never had to deal with in my life. So I appreciate that the show isn't shying away from those things, and it is at least peppering them in, a little bit in each episode, kind of like touching on like, and I liked how it was handled in this episode in particular, in this most recent one, of she didn't like the She-Hulk name, but and it is still incredibly derivative. She's still going to think it's incredibly derivative, but since it's what people are going to go with, and like she owned it to her own degree, I liked that it came up as like her villain trying to use the name against her, with the cease and desist and trademarking and all that stuff. And I liked that like the defense was actually she has been owning that, and here's evidence from this interview, but then more presciently, here's the montage of men that dated her as She-Hulk because of her She-Hulk profile. So I enjoy the conversation that is happening in there, and I don't like the people who are downvoting it, just like they downvoted Miss Marvel or whatever, aren't doing it in any kind of good faith. So I don't give them the time of day. They don't,
whatever. Yeah.
Like they don't deserve the conversation that they're getting. Cause that's all they want. They just want that conversation. They just want the rage and attention, and fuck them. So yeah. Any final thoughts on She-Hulk Attorney at Law before we wrap up?
It's real good.
Yeah, it's really good. If like honestly, it's interesting that we are getting a revival of the old kind of like late 90s, early 2000s Boston Legal, Ally McBeal style procedural like sitcom in a Marvel show. It's downright awesome.
It's
I
great,
love it.
Yeah.
I just think this is such an awesome way of also handling the like I said at the beginning, the mundane aspects of the superhero universe.
Mm-hmm.
Also shout out to the Abomination and his
harem.
his seven soulmates. The moment when he says, he goes, oh, there, and he's like, first off, like, please don't reference them as just like this. He names them and he goes, they are my better apes. And I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This is so good. It's so good.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of fun stuff here. Any final thoughts from you, Logan?
I agree. I think it's a ton of fun. I think everyone should go check it out. Yeah, I hope people don't sleep on it. I think it's super fun, and it is unlike the vast majority of the MCU, and mostly really fun in cool ways.
Yeah. I agree. I think it's fun getting to see the like street level mundanity of things in the same way that like seeing it back in Spider-Man Far From Home, seeing the blip and like everybody coming back, and like it happening with people just crashing into like band people on a basketball court or something like that. Like some of those are the most funny aspects of the MCU in terms of like how does the wider world deal with like the absurdity of what they're experiencing, on a day to day. I think there's a lot of fun in there. So, I look forward to the rest of the season. And I'm sure at some point after all of our Halloween stuff, we'll do some kind of like full season wrap up. In sometime in November. So, stay tuned for that. But yeah, let's go ahead and go around, do the report card, give it a grade from A+ to F. Cameron, what grade do you want to give She-Hulk Attorney at Law episodes 1 through 5, part 1, all that, like whatever, first half of the season so far?
I think it still has like some areas where it can improve. I'm going to give it an A-, but it's leaning heavily towards an A or A+ when we're getting probably towards the end of the season. Right. If it can land where it's at, like what the energy and kind of attitude that it has now, if it can land that, I think it's definitely A+ territory.
Cool. Logan, how about you?
I'm going to say a B+, but I agree with pretty much all of Cameron's rationale. I think if it can stick the landing, I think it'll absolutely be an A. I think it is utterly bonkers and super zany energy and so weird and cringe and funny. And yeah, I think if it can stick that, if it can, finish it off the last 4 episodes here, it'll totally get it, right? And that might be a tall order considering the track record of MCU shows maybe getting worse after peaking mid-season. But hopefully it kind of bucks that trend and brings things home, and I can't wait to see how it pulls it off.
Cool. I was thinking B, but I think I'll go B+. I think you guys have talked me into it. Especially because there's an element of like, for me, since some of this stuff isn't hitting for me in terms of like some of the humor and stuff, like I'm sitting in the B, but in terms of like what I think they're trying to do with it and what I think the show is setting out to do, B+, A- certainly I think is probably a better fit. And it's just, there's a little bit of a break in the Venn diagram between me and the show's intention. But yeah, a lot of fun there. Extra credit, other suggestions if you like this. I checked again right before we started recording. No change from last time we talked about the show. Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, Shang-Chi Legend of the Ten Rings, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Doctor Strange, Avengers Age of Ultron, Avengers, and Thor Ragnarok are your recommendations there.
There are some good movies in there.
And there are some other movies in there.
Yep, it is a eclectic mix.
Extracurriculars. Anybody watching anything else on Disney+?
No, I haven't had time to really watch anything else.
Fair.
I don't believe so.
I watched 2 things. One, I watched an extremely goofy movie recently because I saw that. I was over on the Castle Vault, our friends over there, on their show for an extremely goofy movie. My first time ever watching it. I enjoyed it. Not anywhere near as much as the first A Goofy Movie, which we've talked about back on the very first episode of this show, and is a movie that is near and dear to my heart. Like I knew a little bit about it. I did not realize how much of a late 90s 2000s movie it was, in that like it's the college X Games kind of, and it trades in the musical fun of the first movie for sports, extreme sports stuff.
It's just back to school with Rodney Dangerfield, but instead of Rodney Dangerfield, it's Goofy.
Yeah, it's that plus Brink.
Yeah.
Well,
no, instead of diving being the big deal, it's skating.
Skateboarding.
It is just back to school, but with Goofy.
I'd not seen Back to School, so I didn't have that as a reference point. But it very much was like it's Animal House, it's Revenge of the Nerds, it's the college like underdog versus the evil frat. It was still fun. And then the other thing I watched this week was the season finale of High School Musical, the musical, the series, season 3. It was fun. It was fine. The whole season was very much just a weird, like, it was that series of Saved by the Bell where they go off to the summer resort and get summer jobs. It was that, except for summer camp, because like half of the cast did not go to the summer camp. Like a couple of them pop in for like one episode cameos kind of thing. But yeah, it was very weird. Olivia Rodrigo clearly has blown up in between seasons, and so she's basically being written off the show. Like she shows up, has a little bit of a story arc in like episodes 1 and 2, gone for the entire rest of the season, except she pops up in the finale for like a couple scenes with like one or two other people that she interacts with, and then she bounces and is like, hey, I'm probably not coming back for season 4, bye. So that was interesting, but it's still like cheesy, like a fun thing to throw on while I'm doing or playing something else. So
there you go.
Did you see the like season 4 thing?
I saw what is it? They're doing High School Musical 3, I think is the musical they're doing for
They're
it.
doing a High School Musical sequel and High School Musical the musical.
Oh yeah,
it's basically like they're doing like the sequel to High School Musical with like the original cast.
Yeah,
in the like TV. Yeah,
that's we talked about it a little bit on the Castle Vault. Of it's like they're going, and in the school they're going to be doing High School Musical 3 as the musical, but then they're also going to be filming a High School Musical reunion special for Disney Plus with the kids from the school, i.e. the kids from the series, being like the background extras, and you're going to have people from the original movies coming back and doing little cameo stuff. It's like, all right. It's like this whole season was already very meta in terms of they were doing, a production of Frozen at camp with Corbin Bleu directing a making of documentary of the campers for Disney Plus. And so, yeah, it was a whole bunch of weird stuff. But yeah, it was fun. It was fine enough time. Still really good performances. And yeah, it was dumb stuff. But yeah, shout out to High School Musical, the musical series 3, season 3. I think that was probably all I really watched on Disney Plus this week. Oh, no, I did also watch, just because I didn't have time to, I was working during D23. So I did also watch the like D23, like everything that was announced at D23, like recaps on Disney Plus, which is like little 12-minute shorts starring Jordan Fisher and Ashley Eckstein, kind of saying like, hey, here's everything that they announced on day 1 and day 2. So shout out to that too on Disney Plus, I guess. Yeah. Well, that is going to do it for this week's episode of That D Plus Show. Thank you, everybody, for joining me to talk about She-Hulk Attorney at Law, first half of the season. You can follow Cameron at Rev Cabot, 2 B's and 2 T's. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
Yeah, sure. Friday Night Dying Light is coming to an end. The penultimate episode is getting sent over to Trevor after we do the podcast, and it is we're nearing the end, folks. It's happening.
Excellent.
Incredible. You follow Logan at Lefty Logie, Lefty Loggy, Loggy. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Logan?
I'll give a shout out to a week ago. I had go live the Golden HBA Bond fan piece. I believe that was a week ago, Times of Flat Circle. But that checks out, I think. Go check that out. That was a fun little piece. After I'd kind of had my ranking of all the Bond films go live, and then kind of read through it and started thinking about James Bond, playing GoldenEye 007 Reloaded. I just think about the good old days of James Bond video games, back when we got them. And so, I enjoyed that piece. A lot of fun to kind of go through and just kind of recognize how blessed we were to get all those games and movies during that run that we did. So I encourage everyone to go check that out. And again, also everyone go check out Cameron's Friday Night Dying Lights. It's been a giant epic run of a series. And as someone who also did a giant epic run of a series for that Bond show, I commend you eternally, Cameron. Very, 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 very impressive. So go check it out.
Nice. And hey, we didn't talk about it, but GoldenEye coming to Switch, and then finally that like Xbox version is coming to Game Pass
Mhm.
in the near future. So yeah, it was a
Stay tuned for that too.
yeah. There you go. With full online play. So yeah, maybe we'll hop
Hell
in
yeah.
and do a game.
We will
well,
absolutely.
Well, I guess you don't have Game Pass, but or Xbox, but so I don't know if we could. I don't know if we'll be able to
I don't know if
play.
Switch will. Yeah, so that's.
Yeah, well, I don't like. I currently don't have Switch Online, so I'd need to get Switch Online for it.
I don't either, but I would do it for that.
but,
Right? Yeah, it'd be worth it.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that. But yes, so all that's coming out. You can follow me at Trevor J Starkey. In addition to shouting out both Friday Night Dying Light and that golden age of James Bond stuff that Logan had written. I will shout out. I've been doing some Skyrim Let's Plays on the YouTube, and then I also shout out that episode of the Castle Vault I was on with our friends over there at the Castle Vault this last week for an extremely goofy movie. Fun, always fun going and joining them, and the fact that it was only like a couple months since my last time over there. It was nice just getting to catch up with them again. And we also talked a crap ton about all the D23 stuff because it was probably like the first hour and a half before we actually got to talking about an extremely goofy movie, because we were just catching up and talking about all of the Disney news that had happened between Disney Plus Day and D23. So yeah, go check out all that stuff. You can find all of our Let's Plays over at our YouTube channel, youtube.com/thatnerdysite, be it Cameron's last couple Friday Night Dying Light episodes or my Tuesday and Thursday Let's Plays that have been largely Skyrim driven recently. And then, yeah, you can go find all of us over at That Nerdy Site, or go to thatnerdysite.com for all the latest from us, including written pieces like Logan's. You can follow that's it. You can follow all of us. Please, once again, if you liked what you heard, please rate, review, like, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Thank you for joining us. As always, stay nerdy, be good to each other, and class dismissed.